Okay, so we've completed the first page and we're getting ready to move to the second page. And now rather than open an entirely new file, what we want to do is go ahead and use our layers. Let's see if I can maximize this a little bit so that we can see up here in our view bar, right? And the layers, if you look on the layers video, the layers are right over here. And right now it says it's in shape 1. There are two ways to access layers. One is through the layers dialog box, and if you hover over it, you'll see it says layers, and it looks like sheets of paper, or a stack of paper. And we can click on the layers and it will open our layers dialog box. Now, again, watch the other video on layers, but layers are like sheets of paper. And right now we have in the drawing that I provided to you, have all of these layers available to you. And you have 3 different columns, one for visibility, one to make something invisible, one, the sort of grayed out eye, it's just in grayscale, right? But we want to leave our title on so we can see it. Any layer that is selected, that has the little check mark next to it, is visible. So like right now, we've been drawing on our Shapes 1 layer, and now we want to move to Shapes 2. And if I click on Shapes 2 and say OK, it will look like all of our work went away. But it hasn't. It's just on a different piece of paper, an overlaid piece of paper. It's back on Shapes 1. If I went back and reselected Shapes 1, they all reappear. So if I come over and, right, and so come down and select this and turn on Shapes 2, I can now go ahead and begin drafting my Shapes 2 page. And Shapes 2 is, middle Shapes 2 is pretty easy. So we're just going to do an arc. We do an arc from -1 and 3. So I hover over -1. I go up to 3. That's the center of my arc. I'm in 3-point arc mode. I come across to -2.5, which is going to be here. And I sweep down a 90-degree sweep, and there's my arc. And that's it. If I wanted to finish this, I could just do some line from the end point and there, and I have the same shape that's drawn here. Now on this next one, off to the side, we have 2 arcs. And if I look at where my intersection of my 2 arcs are, I see this first one is at 1 on the X and 2.5 on the Y. So I'll select the arc tool. I'll zoom in a little bit. We're at 1, 2.5, 2.5, there, and I come down to 1.5 and I arc up. Great. My next arc is going to be at 3.5 and 2, so let's go to 2 and 3.5, 3.5. There is the center for this arc, and I come down and I draw up. And now it's just a matter of using my line tool to finish it off, right? So if I'm going to do a line tool, I'll come over to here. I can hover over that point. That's how long the line is. And I come down, and that figure is complete. This next figure down here should be pretty easy. But now let's invest a little time in the one down in the bottom, right? And it's similar to what we're doing. Why don't we start with the rectangle? We'll come over to the rectangle or the square, and it's going to go at 1 minus 1, rectangle tool, and I'll hover over 1 and minus 1. That's that corner, and we go down to 3 minus 3. 3 minus 3, which is right there. Now I want to do an arc, and my arc tool is going to go from the corner, and I go up to 1.5 and across, and I cut across here, and there is my arc tool, right? And so I've made that shape. And that finishes this page of drawing. To go to the next page, just going to maximize my Vectorworks. That's Shapes 2. If I come down and I can turn on Shapes 3, and now I can start drawing on Shapes 3. Now if I were to go back into my layer dialog box and turn on Shapes 1 and Shapes 2, it'll get confusing. You'll see how things are drawn over top of one another. It's like I've turned on all of the sheets of paper, and that's where it can get a little confusing. We'll go back into our dialog here, and we will leave all of the layers off except for the one that we're drawing on, which is denoted by the little checkbox. And we'll say OK. So now we're off to Shapes 3.